Call to order the committee meeting for August 27th, 2024. We start with transfer and appropriations. Our first committee tonight is budget administration. Mr. Chapel.
You. Bill number 87-24A, appropriation of $644, Department Treasurer. Commissioner.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Thea Smolinski, second floor treasurer's office. During the transition from the former to the current deputy of finance, the fee for service maintenance agreement was unintentionally paid 2 times. Cummings Ellison has since issued a refund of $644 that went to fund 1000-0000.0003. We're requesting the payment to be returned to the fund it was originally paid from, and that's 1000.3630000000000.
Any questions for the petition? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Bill number 87-24A goes to the full council of favorable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill number 87-24B, transfer of $206,233. Department 0071, maintenance. Petitioner.
Bree Roberts, Director of Procurement, and I have with me Alexis, who is the administrator for maintenance. This is unspent payroll funds for line items, FTEs that have gone unbilled. We would like to use this money for operating expenses as well as professional services and repairs of other equipment.
Right. Any questions for the petition? So you're saying, we've got 5 positions here that we want unfilled, is that correct?
Correct. Yep. And those are the same items, just so you can make the correlation, the same payroll lines that we have done away with in the 2025 budget.
Okay, that's going to be the next question. Any other questions? We have a motion on Bill 87-24B. All those in favor of saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? 87-24B goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you. Bill number 87-24C, appropriation of $60,000, Department 0034, Commissioners. Mr. Reader.
Thank you. Derek Dieter. On the 7th floor is the second commissioner. This is the revenue that we made. We had 4 auctions at Portage. 3 were online, and then there was a tag sale, which was people come in, look at a tag and you buy it. So the county received out of that $60,764.93. The auctioneer got $11,674. We are asking that $40,000 of that go to the city of Mishawaka Parks. They are building a miracle park, and we originally, when all this started a long time ago, wanted to do a Challenger Little League at Chet Wagner. It doesn't make any sense that we would compete with Mishawaka, and secondly, the thing that they're gonna build is, we could never even come close to that. It's multi-million operation is gonna be very good for the community. And we're asking that the remaining funds stay at Portage Manor. There's this probably spent between the continuation of finishing the trails, and there's a massive amount of cleanup. Last night we had an open house, and it was come as you are, bring as your truck. 253 people were there. There are currently people now. Even when that's done, as Randy's been out there a lot, there's just so much stuff that we're probably just gonna have to throw away. So we're offering it to the community for free. So we're asking that those funds, $40,000 goes to the Miracle Park, and then the rest stay at Portage Manor. Eventually, Carl has talked about putting RFP for the building and the property, but that's down the road. But we need to have, once that's done, Randy's seen the shed, which is full of stuff that used to be in the basement here, and it got thrown out to the shed there, so.
There, this is more just like a clarity technical question, but the fund request says Challenger Little League, not the Mishawaka Miracle Park. Does that need to be amended before it's brought for our vote?
Steve, we probably just used the wrong term, so it's probably a typo. Should it say Mishawaka something different?
Yeah, with parks and.
Mishawaka Miracle Park. Right now, it still says
Okay.
the Challenger Little League. Just, it may need to be updated compared to what was originally filed.
Any other questions for Commissioner? All right, may I have a motion on bill number 87-24C?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, bill number 87-24C goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you, Commissioner Diaz.
Hold on a second, Derek. Chair, the next bill is attached at the hip to the one that was just approved. It is the appropriation of the $20,000 in the maintenance.
Do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just like I said, there's gonna be a massive amount of continued cleanup.
All right, any other questions? We have a motion on bill number 87-24D.
Motion approved.
Second. All those in favor of bill number 87-24D moving forward, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, bill number 87-24D goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. All right. Bill number 87-24E, transfer of $9,813, commissioners.
Bree Roberts, Director of Procurement, again, I think I was gonna have Andy Meyer from South Bend Fire here also, but I don't see him. Essentially, this is the $9,813 that we need to be able to purchase the ambulance for the county. Which I believe you previously had heard about, for when 2024 budget discussions were going on. So it was funded. The only problem we had is once we purchased the chase vehicle and the upfit and we came to purchasing the ambulance, costs had gone up. And so we just need to clear this delta in order to make the ambulance purchase a reality for South Bend Fire, for calls within the county.
Okay. Any questions for the petition? May I have a motion on bill number 87-24?
So
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, bill number 87-24E goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
thank you.
Bill number 87-24F, appropriation of $190,000, commissioners.
Were you taking this one, Bill?
Carl said he was, but he went home because he wasn't feeling good.
We can do it. Help you guys put it together.
Okay.
This is in the American Rescue Plan Fund. It's budget transfers. Of about 397,000 from various accounts in the American Rescue Plan. Primarily the Portage Manor Security Agreement account. That agreement has kind of been discontinued. So we're able to save quite a bit out of that account. It's for the courthouse roofs that we talked about at yesterday's budget meeting. And the balance is an additional appropriation in the American Rescue Plan Fund of 190,000. So those two together, that's really great for us. So we talked yesterday about what's our total appropriations that we have on hand for the courthouse roofs. And the total is $2,392,053. So we were able to match the first phase expenditures. So that consists of $654,000 that's in the original, that's already in the American Rescue Plan. $190,000 that we're talking about tonight in the appropriation. The $397,000 that we're talking about tonight. $800,000 that's in the 2025 budget for this purpose in the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. And then $350,000 of commissioner funds. They talked to you about this, right? So $350,000 of commissioner funds. So that totals up to $2,392,053. So that's good. We kind of cobbled the money together that we needed. Right? Do you have any other comments, Bree?
Well, my only other comments would be that is what we're considering this phase one, the construction phase. So just keeping in mind that is not the restoration of the interior. So none of the mural repair, the plaster work, any of that. So that will get us through this construction phase and get the roof repaired, but then we still have interior damage to grapple with.
correct me if I'm wrong, but they reflected approximately $1 million for that interior work.
It depends, it's hard to quantify, and that's why they kind of put it in the brackets they did, because it really depends on how far the county wants to go in that restoration. When they came in, they went all the way to the extent of mentioning that the, delicately painted plaster work in the rotunda area had actually been whitewashed. And so of course, from their perspective, from a restoration perspective, they wanted to include full restoration, so back to historical accuracy. I don't know the appetite of the council to necessarily go there. So it really depends on how far we want to take it. There's still a large amount of money to be spent on restoration.
Any other questions? May I have a motion then, bill number 87-24 F? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bill number 87-24 F goes to full council with a favorable recommendation. Back to you, President Green.
Thank you. Next up is engineering and transportation.
Bill number, thank you, number 87-24 G, transfer $2,460,000. Department 070-023-0062, 0064 IPG, Sky.
Yes, sir. Sky Matters, Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth, office on 711 Florida County City Building. What this item here, what it is three sort of separate things that we're trying to accomplish here without a line budget transfers. The first one is taking 60,000 of the salary from our highway engineer that we haven't gotten a resume or applicant for since it's been open over a year. Taking that 60,000 and moving it into consultants and contractual services, so I can use that to pay some of the pay consultants to do some of the things that position would have done. The next item is transferring $2 million from our major bridge maintenance rehab into the Mayflower Bridge project. That's Mayflower over Nick D, Norfolk Southern. That project will be let in mid-September, and estimated cost of that is about 5.3 million. And we're it originally was 80-20, but with cost increase, we may be paying more than our 20%. And if that's the case, I want to have the money and the location to do it. NDOT has been trying to make sure they can do the 80-20, but they may not. And that's also for construction as a VectionAct project. It's just to get it in the right account so we can track it better. And the other items are transferring from items that have a surplus to items that we're seeing are close to a deficit or could be in a deficit by the end of the year. A lot of that, as you see, is our calcium chloride, which is our road salt, which this past year we did not use very much of as we typically do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on those transfers.
Question for Mr. Matters. Do I have a motion on bill number 87-24 G?
Motion second.
I have a motion and a second on 87-24 G. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 87-24 G goes to full council with a favorable recommendation. 87-24 H, appropriation $3,650,000. Department 069, 0062, and 0023 IPG again.
What these items are is taking cash that we currently have in these funds. Like the first fund is the major, it's the Hume Bridge Fund, which are bridges under 200 feet in length. The next is our MVH restricted, and then LOHUD. We have cash in those accounts, and I need to move the one from for the Hume Bridge to help pay for the other bridge we have that'll be letting later this year, which is Mayflower Ardmore. That's paid out of a different fund. And then we also had a CCAP program this year. It's called compacted asphalt. Cheaper than normal mill and fill. We're doing some mileage this year to see how it goes. And I'd like to appropriate some of the funds that are in MVH restricted to that. And the other is funds that were in LOHUD. I'd like to appropriate those to take care of some of the additional paving that I've had the contractors look at and begin, yet this year. They are, I knew that there was this cash here to appropriate that, so I've had them looking at doing some additional paving this year.
Questions?
I got a quick question. The cold compact asphalt concrete, we're gonna try that out at. What kind of situation?
I can get you a list. There's it's more the rural, roads. And we've used it before and it's worked well more than it hasn't.
Is that the one you described as like you put it down and if someone stepped in it right away?
Yes.
Yeah, I go, oh,
Yeah, so we're gonna be trying that this year and we're trying some different methods that can save costs too, just to try and get out, figure out some ways to save costs. And I also meant to add on these that there was cash in these accounts. The cash and MVH restricted and LOHUT, we had set those aside for, to help with some of our local public, agency projects, some of our matches. But our Cleveland Beach roundabout, it came in lower than what we expected, and NDOT was able to give us more of, get us to the 80-20 match on that construction. So we have, it's not money that's just been sitting there without doing something. It did have a purpose, but that purpose has moved on, so we are able to appropriate that now to some of our paving projects. Cleveland Beach, yeah.
So you just did that on that project, and that was able to meet the 80-20, but you're saying on the other one, they might not be able to.
Yeah.
Increase the cost.
Yes, but originally Cleveland Beach, when we were going in with the estimates, the match was actually, they do 60, we do 40 because of cost, but they were able, based on projects and funding they had, to match 80%. So what they're doing is, regardless of what the projects come in at, they're trying to figure out
Okay,
ways
on
to.
each project.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So it's not a matter of you lobbying that.
Right, right, yeah. No, they're, yeah, they're
Okay.
trying to.
I appreciate that explanation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
To clarify, they approved their portion of the match on the previously estimated costs. It's just that-
Originally.
Yeah,
And so then they found money, once it's bid, they know exactly how much that costs.
And they'll still try to make it
Yes,
on each project.
yes, and what they say is, we'll try to meet, we can't make any promises,
Okay.
but we will try.
I know this is off subject, but and I think you probably told me that Douglas Bittersweet, when is that scheduled?
That is scheduled in 27.
27.
Any other questions? The motion on bill number 87-24H.
Motion in favor.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Bill number 87-24H. Goes to full council with a favorable recommendation. That's all I have, Mr. Root. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Next up is the Human Services Criminal Justice Committee, Ms. Gray.
Bill number 8724I, and appropriation of $24,685.
I'm Randy Mazelinski, Chief Deputy Coroner, office at 1622 Mishawaka Avenue. Basically, what we're looking for is the appropriation of this money to replace our roof at our building because of a major water leak we have. We went to maintenance back in May, and they got an estimate here of the 24,685, but they told us they have no money. So we can't go in this building with having this leak continued. We've got water damage in our cooler. Our electrical fluorescent lights have got water seeping through them. Our coolers have got water coming through the walls. So this should have been taken care of a long time ago. We found out basically that we do have some money in our non-reverting fund that we can spend on this. So we've got to get this roof fixed. And we're going to be coming back actually and looking for more money because of the damage to the roof.
So you're saying you will be coming back looking for more money to fix the damage, or if we don't fix it, you expect to be coming?
No, we've got water damage already there that's leaking through our light fixture and through our cooler walls and everything. From this not being repaired. So basically, like I say, just we're gonna have to come back and get that fixed.
And will that come from the non-reverting fund also?
Don't know. That's part of our problem is we're not quite sure where the money will come from. It's a maintenance issue that should have been fixed. We thought it should have been handled by the maintenance department. They told us they don't have the money to fix it. So that's why we're coming in and taking it out of this non-reverting fund because it's got to get fixed.
Second go round, you might not have the money to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if maintenance not going to take care of that problem, then we'll have to take it out of the non-reverting.
So that's what I'm
fund.
asking.
So do you have an estimate yet on what the damage?
No, because we didn't know exactly,
It's
we
still
get the estimate now and it's still leaking and we're still having the problem, so we wanted to get the roof repaired first and then have somebody come in and give us an estimate.
So maintenance is saying they don't have the money now, I'm sure they don't have the money there.
Probably not.
There's about, even after this, expenditure, there'll be over $50,000 in that fund. So unless it's a really high maintenance
Okay.
item, they'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
For 8724I was disclosed with favorable recommendation. Bill number
Thank you.
80, thank you. Bill number 8724J, an appropriation of $20,000 from the sheriff.
Steve Noonan, St. Joe County Police Department, offices 401 West Sample. This is $20,000 request to have a 16 to 20 hour overtime detail in the IEC area due to truck route complaints due to the construction and other road construction, and then the abundance of trucks in the area due to the construction.
Mr. Thomas.
Steve, that's going to, I know, so the other council members know, there's been a big problem out there, getting a ton of emails. And the trucks are going everywhere, the signs don't do much good, and bottom line is better enforcement, right, Steve? More
Yes,
enforcement.
that's it. And then through a conversation today, it sounds like we may be able to recover that back to the general fund through the IEC, based on the community enhancement money.
There's 120,000 available, I think, through that, right, for additional patrols for next year or going forward. The bill about that, that's what I saw in the community enhancements, they had 120,000 in there. Maybe this could get
That sounds right.
walked back, I don't know.
Yeah, we met with Bill and Frank. We're gonna set up different funds for each of the components of the community enhancement money. So this is one of the components. The student money is gonna be separate. The park money is gonna be separate. They're all gonna be separate funds. So we'll be able to track exactly how that Amazon money is being used.
Awesome. How long do you think that'll keep those patrols up out there? We're gonna have that extra truck traffic obviously for a long time. Do you have any estimations on an annual basis what that's gonna cost?
If we kept it at 16 to 20 hours a week, it would probably be somewhere around 50 to 55,000.
And then the 26 probably. Through 26. Barely 27. But if our presence is out there, maybe they'll get the message. I hope. Yeah. I hope. It should help, yeah, deter.
John, why is this coming through the general fund instead of going right to redevelopment?
Redevelopment can't pay salaries.
No,
Overtime.
that's a good answer. They're gonna reimburse, the plan was to reimburse the police department for this month. Out of these special funds that they're setting up.
Those funds can't.
So going forward, redevelopment,
TIF cannot, general expenses or general redevelopment can, and the community enhancement fees are going in the general.
decision to split these funds up so you can account to wherever they're going. Was that just out of conversation back and forth?
Right.
Okay.
There's different, I haven't read through all the contract, but apparently there's different allocations to each of these.
Correct.
I think there's like 5 functions.
Correct. No, I'm just saying that's.
That was our decision in the auditor's office. We thought that would be the most transparent.
Your decision?
Yeah. It's easier, it'll be easier to follow.
Okay, awesome. That's good. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bill number 8724J moves forward with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
Bill number 8724K, a transfer of 110,000 probate court.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Brunsma from the Juvenile Justice Center. So the first one is 110,000 appropriation from detention officer line to food. Total openings and detention line allowed the transfer. Transfer is needed to cover the cost of meals, basically for the residents and that we have. And as you know, food prices have gone up. I don't need to kind of explain that. One, if you want me to just rip through them or how do you like to do that? One at a time, okay. Take any questions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bill number 8724K moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Bill number 8724L, an appropriation of $11,816 probate court.
The appropriations for project income portion of the IDOC Community Corrections Grant appropriation or to supplement the salaries in the grant 0797.
Motion's in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bill number 8724L moves forward with favorable recommendations. Bill number 8724M, an appropriation of $74,800.85. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, appropriations to fund distribution to the state. This is to return unused grant funds to the state. Large return was due to open positions. One position was left open as we knew it would be eliminated. It's grant cycle.
Opposed? Bill number 8720. Favorable recommendation, and bill number 8724N, a transfer of 15,000.
Transfer from food service supervisor to institutional supplies. Funds are available as position was open for some time. And transfer needed to purchase supplies for detention.
Opposed? Bill number 8724N moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Thank you. Oh, wait, you're still there.
Yeah. We've got a couple more to go.
Sorry, bill number 8824, a salary amendment for leave.
So salary amendment for supervision of residential placement, actually the coordinator of residential placement. Appropriation not needed as funds were available on that line for the increase in the salary. Putting some more clinical person in charge of the residential placement. And the probation officers that supervise the residential placement are getting more acuity in terms of kids and clinical needs. So I'm making sure the providers are giving us what we need for the children when we send them to residential.
So severe clinical situation.
And so right now we have approximately,
Can you give me a generic example?
yeah, like, we send kids like to Oak Lawn for residential treatment down on Lincoln Way. Right now, we have kids that are self-harming, tried to commit suicide a couple of times. A couple of them tried to kill people, and they're really severely mentally ill. And so our team, our probation team, has to supervise those cases in the facilities. And the complexity of cases really requires me to get someone with at least a master's or a doctoral degree in. So I'm taking a forensic clinician that I have now working there and giving them $3,000 more to supervise 40 more cases. On top of all the other stuff they have to do, like, well, they do all the mental health screens coming into detention, mental health assessments, groups that have to be run, 5-star programming. I can.
Bill number 8824 moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Bill number 8924 salary amendment combined with bill number 8724 appropriation $278,770.
So these are appropriations are for the IDOC Community Corrections Grant fiscal year 24-25. Additional funds needed for salaries has already been appropriated in the use of probation user fees and lit.
We already know that there's some pressure on lids. Does this extenuate that further?
Well, their whole budget is in the JJC budget was moved not by their decision, but because it was the most proper one to do it. So possibly you could look at their budget, but that's a lot. No, at this time.
These, Dr. Brunstone, these increases, were they also accounted for in our 2025 budget?
Ryan, this is a grant fund, just 9129, so we should get.
It's not gonna hit us directly.
No.
Yeah. Motion is in favor. Second. Aye.
Right, next is bill number 9024, salary amendment, health department, combined with, bill number 8724 P and appropriation.
This is related to public health, this is preparedness grant. The $25,000 will fund public health coordinator, going forward. Some ways, so the remainder of the grant.
Secret preparedness grant, or basically just saying that you've got money left over there, you're just finding a place to use it, is that what you're saying?
Apparently in years past, there's been, sometimes there's some difficulties with the grant cycle to make sure that we use the priority of the grant. So the decision was made to use it for the person's salary. And that if they have any activities, in 2025, use that on HFI funding. Or if we're doing fairs or presentations, we felt that that was better use of the money was to use the remainder of the grant for the salary and then not have leftover funding.
Questions?
Motion says favorable.
Second. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Bill number 9024 combined with bill number 87. moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Bill number 9124 salary amendment from the health department combined with bill number 8724 Q and appropriation of $600,000.
Hi, Jody, the director, assistant for. This is our regular immunization grant that we receive from state that funds our mobile unit and supplies. So we're able to get out in the community and provide vaccines for people that possibly may not be able to. And there are questions.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
That's Mr. President, bill number 80 for special use for property located at 161 McKinley Fairway petition. Yes, realty venture.
Good evening, Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So this is a petition for a special use for an active private park. It's located on Evergreen Plaza Drive, just north of McKinley in the area highlighted on the screen. The proposal for the special use is for indoor pickleball courts. This is the building as it appears from the outside, looking across Evergreen Plaza Drive. And then this is looking from the parking area across the street to the industrial use over there. This area is exclusively zoned industrial on the side of McKinley. There are some residential uses and zoning on the south side of the street. The site plan pretty much shows the existing building. Again, this is all going to be inside that building. These are indoor courts. This comes to you from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation, 7-0. The board found that it met all 4 criteria to consider in granting a special use. They found that it would have really no adverse impact on general welfare or the community. It's really hard to imagine that these indoor courts would really have any sort of impact on the community. Whatever, if any additional traffic is generated on McKinley, it's more than adequate to handle it. They found that it would not injure or adversely affect adjacent industrial uses, that it is really consistent with the character of the district, and that there are some mixed uses along McKinley. You do have mainly industrial uses here, and then there are some commercial uses further to the west. And then finally, they found that it was compatible with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. It's not really adverse to any specific recommendation, and it would further specifically goal 5, objective D, which is promote the expansion and or upgrading of community facilities throughout the planning area. Other than that, favorable recommendation 7-0, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Angela Smith from Dan Turner Associates, offices located at 1643 Commerce Drive. Mr. Cunningham owns the majority of the properties here on Evergreen Plaza. There's like one outlier that they don't own. He originally built this shell of a building for an industrial use, and then was approached by H2, wanted to do pickleball courts there. There was a lot of interest, and we're looking for your favorable recommendation to allow for that. There is a potential to expand the building to the north with additional uses, and they have nearby industrial property that can handle any overflow parking or anything that might happen related to the use. But we think this is a really good reuse in the industrial district. The use would be allowed by right C commercial, but we didn't want to downzone this property for something that in the future pickleball bad fades. We can use it as an industrial building. I don't think when the ordinance was written, pickleball even existed. So here we are for an indoor pickleball court. We hope for your favorable recommendation. No, because it didn't exist. It's in my lifetime, nobody else. So
Questions?
Randy, I'd just like to say, this is a wonderful addition in my district out there. Wonderful addition on McKinley Avenue. Popular. I buy it all the time, the parking lot's full, so kudos to Mr. Cunningham and his group for being willing to look outside the box here, put in that type of a facility. And with that, I'd be more than happy to make the motion to move it to the floor.
Recommendation, second, all those in favor, then say aye. Opposed, take motion, those forward, bill number 8124, rezone for property located at 11810 Douglas Road, 54050 Buckeye Road, 11603 Douglas Road, and 11501 Douglas Road. Petition to check registered by the state.
Yes, Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. This is a petition to rezone the 4 parcels highlighted on the screen from A agricultural to R single family district. These are along the intersection of Buckeye and Douglas Road, both to the north and to the south of Douglas Road. To the north are properties zoned A agricultural. Some contain agricultural uses, others residential uses. Same situation to the east and to the west. To the south, you do have a couple large parcels that were recently rezoned to our single family district to support a future residential subdivision. Here are those parcels once again. It's about 76 acres in total. Portions of it are wooded, other portions appear as though they've been farmed at some point in the past, and there are also 2 single-family homes on the property, one to the north of Douglas and one to the south. This is the property at the southwest corner of Douglas and Buckeye. It's wooded currently. This is the property across Buckeye, which is at the southeast corner of Buckeye and Douglas. It does contain what appears to be a vacant single-family home. And then on the north side, you have that additional single-family home and accessory structure. And then this is the parcel on the north side further to the east. The site plan submitted doesn't really show what is intended in terms of the residential density or lot sizes. In this case, the petitioner really just wants to get it ready for potential residential future users or developers. So that would be determined in the future. It would be subject to the minimum lot sizes and frontages of the zoning ordinance in the R single family district. Additionally, the petitioner proposed a written commitment that would restrict development on septic to a minimum lot size of 3 acres. So that would allow for kind of more responsible and sustainable septic development than what the zoning ordinance would otherwise permit with half-acre lot size minimums. Turning to the state law criteria, the Area Plan Commission did find that all of these criteria were met. Consequently, they sent it to you with a favorable recommendation, 5-1. That being subject to that 3-acre lot minimum for septic development. There are no sewer and water utilities here at the moment, so any residential development in the foreseeable future would be on well and septic. They found that although this area has traditionally been zoned agricultural, development in this region, both to the north, south, east, and west, have kind of diminished the ongoing agricultural value, given the amount of traffic. Additionally, they've made the area more suitable for residential development, given that although there's no sewer water service currently, there are other sorts of urban services available, such as schools and emergency rescue, that sort of thing. And again, to the responsible development and growth, the 3-acre lot minimum will kind of ensure that even if this is septic dependent, it'll be more responsible. Beyond that, petitioners here, and I'm happy to answer any questions. There was one resident that spoke during the public hearing in demonstrance. They were mainly concerned about just generally agricultural preservation and this rezoning potentially opening the door for more rezonings to residential.
All in this too.
Angela Smith, Dan Tarney Associates, offices at 1643 Commerce Drive. If you could leave up the aerial, Sean, that'd be awesome. So the petitioner here Victor Kubicek. He likes to pride himself as one of the last Harris Township farmers that still lives in the area and farms the area. Has been maintaining this property for Sandra Miller. She was once the resident of one of the houses. Her brother was a resident of the other. He has passed and she is in nursing care. And so Mr. Kubicek's trying to look for what's the opportunity here to help fund her nursing care facility. They've tried to look at selling for 20 acres and people are having trouble financing a 20-acre parcel, especially in these areas where the farmland's not great. Only 12 acres on each side of the streets actually been farmed anytime in the recent past, and it's been for hay. And Mr. Kubicek's even struggling with that and requires a lot of help from some Amish farmers that he has come up and help him because that's not a traditional and like industrial typical corn and soybean type crop. It takes a lot more work. The wooded areas really aren't great. He doesn't want to see it all mined away. So he doesn't want to kind of like sell off the woods, but they have had people approach him where they'd be interested in kind of a larger rural residential lot. So in that 3 to 5 acre, especially if you look at the southwest corner, that 10-acre parcel that's fully wooded. That's the one where the people have seemed to have the most interest in. People want to live on a nice wooded lot. Feel like that would give them some nice buffer from the heavy streets. So that's where the 3 acre came from when we were talking about not going below that. He has been involved in the sale of land in the past and kind of understands how the soils work and how limiting that can be, and understands that if anybody wanted to do a traditional suburban style development here, it would have to be on around water and sewer. It could possibly be extended from the south, from the development that's there, or future development that may come out this way, but he knows that that's not immediate. But try to find someone who will pursue that is difficult until you have it properly zoned. So it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So that's why we're here before you this evening. This is an interesting area of the county for ag because it's probably pretty close to that. But in this map here, I did like a count of the 118 parcels, only 21 of them meet the 20-acre rule. So the majority of this, 80% of this area already falls below what would be the minimum required for a true agricultural lot. And there's not really an in-between district that would have agricultural uses and smaller. So that's kind of where we're stuck. We can't go any less than 20 acres without rezoning it or going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is not likely to be successful. So that's why we're here before you, and we ask for your favorable recommendation. I'd be happy to answer questions.
So you said 3-acre lots, so the builders thinking 23-acre lots, are they just kind of right now don't know how big this lot would be? Could we end up with 4 to 5 homes in there?
So again, I think the first parcel that will sell, the one that he's had the most interest in, will be that southwest corner, which is 10 acres. So he was thinking 2 3s and a 4. So 3 3 and a 4 on that one. The one immediately north of the existing proposed residential might be something that's attractive to that developer to do on water and sewer since they already have it there, but they would have to cross a ditch that's just been relocated. So there's some limitations there. What I would suspect is that first parcel would probably start off, and maybe the other wooded parcel might start off as being people who want not 20 acres, but more than a half acre. And then the larger chunks may be more attractive to a developer who's going to do a traditional subdivision.
Single family.
Everything's single family.
Any other question?
Motion in favor of it.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Thanks, John. That's all I have.
Big, and I'll move to those bills held in committee. Again, the budget administration committee.
56-24, St. Joseph County Handbook Revision Petitioner Commissioner. Mr. Augustine.
Thank you, Mr. Shatzel. Council, Peter Fair, this is not without this, I want to do stuff. Just going to give you a real brief high-level overview where we're at, and going to ask you to keep this a committee until bring it out. So one of the things we've been working on is what's the cost of doing the shift in the PTO from where we were at under the old policy book to where we want to go. And converting sick time into one with vacation and personal into one category. We've been working with the treasurer's office. They've been producing some reports. We're need to fine tune. One of the things that's happened in terms of the financial aspect of this is because we're moving later into the year. We've had a number of employees reload on their vacation under the policy handbook, and if we're gonna make this shift in January to the maximum PTO hours that we're planning to do, there's gonna be a number of employees that have earned more vacation now since we're later into the year. We're estimating that the cost of that's gonna be in the $800,000 neighborhood. There's also an additional cost that I talked about last time, which was dealing with some employees who need to have some time purchased to bring them down to the caps under the new caps. That amount is a much smaller number, maybe in the $20,000 to $1,000 range. There's also some employees that need to have their comp time purchased out, which they're over statutory max hours. That's maybe in the $50,000 category. So we want to make sure that you got the full numbers. The numbers are a moving target as we get later into the year because more people load up with vacation based on anniversary. Under the new manual, we want everyone to start fresh and earn prorated PTO throughout the year. So wanted to give you that alert. There'll obviously be a question on how we handle this. Either an additional appropriation next year or some other way of handling it that needs to be discussed. But that's a big picture overview. I did add into the policy handbook, there was a request for progressive discipline. So we did put that into the handbook. I will say though that we are still reserving the right though to move to accelerate the termination if it's called for under the particular circumstances. We're recommending progressive discipline, but at the same time, we're reserving the right to move to termination. That was a big add-on that I think came out of the last time we had a discussion about this. And then we did correct the PTO policy to also include our part-time employees to make sure they were covered in this. Those are the big ticket items.
The question, $800,000, that we have not budgeted that strict budget, correct?
Probably be additional appropriation. I would not recommend you put it in the budget. You won't have a final number until the end of the year. Pete, what's the timeline? We're going to talk about this at committee next month. Is the vote the October public hearing?
It would be, yes.
So you're saying you're still working on numbers?
Well, we're getting finalized. If the numbers is a moving target, we won't really have, frankly, the exact number until we get through the last payroll period for the year.
That's what I'm getting to. We were just, talking about it. If the numbers are moving target, it's gonna be kind of.
The closer we get to the end of the year, the more tighter we are to what that
Correct.
estimate is, but
Correct.
then people may or may not use PTO that last week of the year through the holidays.
And that is not going to be such a significant number that we can't have a fix for that next year. I think we anticipate having to have some fix for what we might miss out in that last week.
Getting back to the accelerated, progressive discipline.
Yes.
Okay, but still, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. Then when you start talking about in certain instances, you still reserve the right to accelerate that. That's real subjective there, buddy.
Well, let's say you got a perfect employee.
Unless it's so egregious, then.
Yeah, well, that's why you have to reserve that right. You could have someone as a 20-year employee with no discipline record, and all of a sudden they decide to steal $50,000 from the treasurer's office. Well, under progressive discipline, you're gonna say,
So,
let's give them a warning, let's give
no,
them
no,
counseling.
so basically for those types of,
Yeah,
okay, I'm just trying, okay.
that was just like. Sorry, Diane.
So going on the budgets, Steve and Jen, it's another ballpark $800,000, right?
Recommending not put in.
I know, I understand that.
It is an additional appropriation in January. A one-time event, it's not a.
It is a
ongoing
one-time, it is a one-time event, and in the bigger picture things. Like right now, there's as much as a $7 million value on all the accumulated unpaid time that if you were to calculate it all out. So converting some of that, particularly on the sick time side. That sick time does not get paid out when people leave or are terminated. It is there for use. So it's I'll say a quasi liability. It's not a real liability. May not ever get used. However, we are kind of shrinking that exposure. So to Steve's point, this is a one-time to clear out earned vacation that's coming in as the year progresses, and then switching the system.
And to be clear, it's never going to cost us less than it is now because wages increase and it doesn't matter when they accrued it. It's when we have to pay it out. It's whatever their rate of pay is and that is.
Correct. That's correct. I know Liberty Township's anxious to be heard.
That's questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask the holding committee and then we'll bring it back out. I'm gonna ask to bring it back out for October. Thank you.
All right, next up is the Rules Committee. We're gonna have a presentation from the Mishawaka County Library.
Good evening. I'm Dina Wargo. I'm the Director of Operations with the Mishawaka St. Mary's Public Library System. Our primary address is 209 Lincoln Way East in Mishawaka. I want to just quickly recognize those who are joining me this evening. We have Donna Meeks, who's our Library Director, Eric Mims, our Comptroller. We have asked our two board-appointed architects, Stephen Kromkowski and Zachary Flagel, to join us in the event you have any specific questions as it pertains to our capital improvement projects. And then we've also asked Sean McGill from Baker Tilly to join us as well. Sean, at the end, will provide information to you as it relates to the financials of this bond. So we have identified 6 capital improvement projects that we would like to complete with this money. 3 of those projects are at our Bittersweet location at 605 Bittersweet Road, 602 Bittersweet Road. I'm going to begin with probably the 2 more extensive. One would be replacing the roof. This is a 40-year-old branch. And this past winter and over the spring, we have sprung some leaks. And so we have known for quite some time that we need to replace the roof. So that is one of the projects we would like to accomplish. The other, again, extensive project would be also addressing HVAC concerns. Excuse me, the equipment, again, close to 40 years old. We have certainly updated some of that equipment, but the majority of that is original and existing and clearly in need of updates and upgrades as well. And then the other project we have identified for this location is to upgrade the interior lighting to LED. It is the last of our 3 locations that needs LED lighting. So that would be our third project there. And then at that point in time, all of our locations internally as well as parking lots will have then been upgraded to LED. Switching gears over to our Mishawaka location in downtown Mishawaka, like Bittersweet, we need a new roof. Again, we sprung lots of leaks this past winter and the spring, and we're continually addressing them. And we are very aware that we do need to replace that roof. Our third location is in Harris at 51446 Elm Road. We recently renovated that location and also addressed lots of things, the lighting, we addressed parking lot lights, new roof, etc. However, that location was built in 2004. And so as it relates to the exterior, there's a host of tuck pointing that needs to be done at that location. So that tuck pointing is the project for our Harris location. And then our sixth and final project, we are also working right now with the city of Mishawaka. We are trying to identify a property site because we would like to build a garage for our library vehicles. We currently own 2 library vans that we use for business needs. And we are in the process of purchasing a bookmobile that will allow us to extend our library services to reach the underserved patrons within our community. And quite frankly, right now, we would have nowhere to park that. And so we have been in conversations with the city of Mishawaka as it relates to identifying a property site and working with them as it relates to our ability to build a garage, but we need the funding in order to get there.
And then, I just want
Yes.
to insert for transparency
Mhm.
that when our last bond that we requested, that we received, did include replacing the Mishawaka roof, the Bittersweet roof, as well as the lighting, LED lighting at all 3 locations. That was though, then COVID hit. We got the check and COVID came. And what our architects estimated for the 3 roofs, the Mishawaka roof came in at that amount. Everything was just, skyrocketed. And so this is the first time to my knowledge that we've ever requested a project from bond dollars that did not get completed with the bond dollars.
Absolutely.
So you established for the Mishawaka roof, and you're asking.
We used those dollars for the Harris roof because that was our biggest, that's actually our largest roof. And then we did get the 2 largest locations, Harris and the downtown Mishawaka location. We did finish the LED lighting for that. We just didn't get to the Bittersweet one for the lighting.
Whenever the presentation came before us a little over a month ago about the football deal, it was indicated at the time that a location to park that had already been identified. Is it
correct?
Is it a matter of the location was selected, but a structure still needs to be?
Actually, our board appointed attorney is working with the city attorney, Mr. Rogaman, as it relates to working on that agreement. And so progress is being made there. So the site has been identified. And we have also already gone, like we have the scope of the garage already laid out. I mean, all of that has been designed with DLZ. And so it's really a matter of waiting on the agreement that we can sign with the city, but as it relates to, we are already proceeding with that order due to the delay.
And yes, Brian, so they're giving us the property, but we have to pay for the building.
It's a lease actually, but I think it's gonna be $1 a year.
Like a lease to buy out.
$1 for 30 years. It's on that property, you're still.
Absolutely right. On the library.
That kind of corresponds with my next question. Sort of, I'm gonna segue into it anyway, but does the issuance of this new bond time out in any shape or form, and this may be a big Tilly question, with the with the sunsetting of any other bonding capacity?
Right, that's a great question. John?
So yeah, I have prepared materials. Were prepared back in May, same presentation that was presented at the library board. I had hoped to update this for 2025 net assessed valuation. However, we're still waiting on the certification of those numbers.
So.
Well, good evening. As introduced, my name is Sean McGill. I'm from Baker Tilly, Senior Manager. We serve as municipal advisors to the Mishawaka Penn Harris Public Library. You may know us better as H.J. Umbaugh and Associates. I had the pleasure of working there for about 5 years until we transitioned to Baker Tilly. So without any ado, I'll start off on slide 2. This lays out the existing debt service structure of the library. So as you can see, this year in 2024, Total annual payments total approximately $700,000. Next year, we do have that bond rolling off. So total annual payments in 25 through 2032 are approximately $400,000. So there's a $300,000 step down as that bond rolls off next year. And that's what we're hoping to kind of integrate and tailor our repayment around. Slide 3 is more procedural legal. This lays out the library's statutory debt limit, calculated by taking the most recently certified net assessed valuation, which the most recent number we have is 2024, divided by 3, multiplied by 2%. I swear I didn't make that up. We arrive at a debt limit of $30,500,000. We subtract out all the existing general obligation principal of $3,560,000, and we're left with $26,956,000. That would be the existing general obligation bonding capacity of the library. Library is not proposing to issue anywhere near that amount of debt. The maximum proposed issuance that would be asked to be considered at the September 8th hearing or September 10th hearing is $4.2 million. From that, we very conservatively estimate that on the absolute worst day in the market, approximately $4 million would be available for project costs, construction, renovations, things of that sort. We're asking that these bonds be repaid over a maximum term of 15 years. And at very conservative 5.5% interest rates, we estimate that interest cost would be just south of $2 million. I will tell you 5.5 is perhaps overly conservative. As I look today, bonds, library bonds at the 15-year repayment term were more around the 3.7% interest rate, which would equal approximately $1,350,000. So absolutely hope to perform better than illustrated in this analysis, but like, you know, as we work for an accounting firm, we tend to be overly conservative. The maximum projected debt service tax rate is 1.84 cents, which represents a 0.45 cent increase over today's debt service tax rate. So you can see on slide 5, where we illustrate our repayment structure, that we are proposing tailoring the repayment such that every 5 years, the library has an opportunity to come back and issue a project of similar size, finance that via bonds, and have the potential for that, provided it fits within these step downs, that it would be tax rate neutral. So understanding that the library will have ongoing needs, and the longer those needs go unaddressed, the more expensive they become to fix, we're proposing setting the library up with a quasi capital improvement plan, wherein every 5 years they have the opportunity to reassess needs and issue potentially a 15-year bond, very similar to what we're looking at today, that would have the potential to be tax rate neutral. Yes, sir.
So it would be tax rate neutral after 2020. Potential. You're saying there'd be a 0.25% increase in the tax rate for 25 through 20.
Correct, provided assessed value does not grow. So that is the one thing that we have not built in, and it, you know, should 2025 assessed value grow like bananas, like it has been, then that 0.45 cent tax rate impact would of course be reduced at that higher assessed valuation. But in any event, we are anticipating that debt service levy to intent here is to, as one of my old partners used to say, reset the table in terms of expectations for the future. The library, of course, anticipates coming back as it's required to do so to issue bonds, but it's hoping that it would not have to have a tax rate increase associated with any of those borrowings. And then moving on to slide 6, that just lays out what that total tax rate in 2025 would be in relation to where the library's total tax rate has been over the past 5 years. Again, that assumes no assessed value growth in 2025. So as that assessed valuation increases, that total tax rate would come down. Lastly, on slide 7, this would show the taxpayer impact or what that 0.45 tax rate increase would look like should it appear on a taxpayer's property tax bill. The bolded line there of $128,200 represents the median home value according to the U.S. Census Bureau for the town of Mishawaka. Of course, being a homestead, you don't pay taxes on that gross assessed valuation, so we take out the homestead and supplemental deduction, arrive at a net assessed valuation of $52,000. The monthly impact of a 0.5 cent rate increase is approximately 20 cents or $2.35 a year.
And that's only on people that haven't hit circuit breaker cap.
That's absolutely correct.
Many people that already cap out,
Would not feel.
see no increase in.
Big monkey wrench into this.
Well said.
This equates to roughly $400,000 a year in anticipated payments, toward the bond. It was only a couple years ago that the, structuring of funding for PSAP affected our libraries. What was the dollar amount of impact to our libraries due to that structuring?
161,000 or very close to that.
So compared to the debt service today, and where this will be after the fact, the library is still going to be net $50,000 or $60,000 less than what that impact to the libraries was with that restructured funding. So
I will say just. We're a small library when you compare us to fabulous St. Joe County's library. We get that, but when you look at our population size, we're about twice their size. But because of the, as my comptroller calls it, the onion taxes, while they're only just short of being twice as big as we are, they get 3 times the revenue and taxes than we do. We do a lot for the money that we get. And we have never, ever, to my knowledge, I've only been here 12 years, but in the 3 bonds processes that I've been through, every time we say this will not, we take a little less money to ensure that we're not raising taxes. And then this young man said, but you need a reset because you're getting, like, at some point you need that recess and then you start the reset and then you start again. Not affecting taxes and going down a little bit in their future bonds. Because we knew this would be unpopular. I said, we have to tell them we cannot increase taxes by 1 penny. He's like, you're shooting yourself in the foot over time. This is really, it hurts your library. So we're trying to do the brave thing here by saying, we need a reset, please.
And the point I was trying to make is that the funding is coming from a property tax basis with this, but previously it was out of the funding that was lost to the library, the roughly $160,000 a year was income taxes. Correct. So it's a different pool of money, but it's still net lower than what the library is receiving for funding before the PSAP restructuring. Not trying to make the case for you, but just trying to level set on the actual net difference over a few.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I'm not sure you take house and market value $300,000, but Granger was supposed to be paying for this too, correct? Let's take a house market value $300,000. They don't get a homestead exemption.
It's not their primary residence.
Not their primary residence. What's that going to cost them?
$13.50 a year.
$13.50.
$13.50 a year. You can take that $100,000 multiplier for commercial property on the bottom line that receives no deductions, multiply that by 3.
The immaterial tax increase. I know we are very concerned about any tax increase, but this is less than 0.5 penny.
Provided assessed value doesn't grow.
Yeah, it could be less.
And you're saying that as long as you didn't bring another bond.
Of course, no, the library would not intend to bring another bond before the council until that 2029 time. when they're looking at another step down. And the plan would be to maintain step downs in their future debt service profile so that every 5 years, they have an opportunity to revisit their facilities and the needs and then adequately address those through bond choice.
That will step back up to it.
Want to say it. I'm not sure it's the right time. Right now, one of the hottest issues in the state of Indiana. Everything right now is on how we get them down. Like, feeling. Not sure if this is the right time. I'd rather be bring back a bond like we did in 2019.
I may respond. We looked at that, and the reason we chose to approach this now was that in structuring that flat, we absolutely could achieve, a $4 million project, rate neutral over 15 years. The library has needs that are going to arise prior to 15 years. So whether we do this now or we come back in 5 or 7 years, if we lay down a level debt service structure, we'll be back 5 or 7 years.
Agree, I just think your timing is about as bad as you could get right now with property tax.
I don't disagree.
And if you come back in 5 years, the state may have done something to the situation.
Or prevented, made it more difficult to undertake non-controlled projects.
And the capital costs may have increased.
Yeah.
Well,
There was a one need to avoid facilities instead of waiting until the whereas costs are increasing, it makes sense to me, the fact that they did.
You could get your projects done in the short term, but they not have to.
15 years, still.
You have a plan B or no? You don't have a plan B?
I do.
14 years or?
Yeah, it's 15 years and flat. I'm happy to distribute that. Hopefully you'll be able to see within, I think it can slip. So one thing I will have note is these first slides are all the same, but if you flip here and compare the estimated interest cost on that flat repayment term to the repayment term that we proposed. Let's go to slide 4, please.
Well, you did it with
Months ago, I don't want to force them.
No.
So aside from the increased interest cost, I think that was an increase. Yeah, there was a estimated interest cost somewhere in the $720,000 range from structuring the repayment flat as opposed to accelerated. Additionally,
How many years did you have to add?
no years added, remains 15 years, but what you'll see On slide 5. What you'll see on slide 5 is that by flattening out that repayment structure and tailoring it so that there is no tax rate increase, assuming no AV growth over the next 15 years, we're able to fit it all in the 15-year repayment term, but pushing all of that principal out to where we're really not making substantial principal payments out until 2033 through 2039. That is going to substantially increase the interest costs. Moreover, the flat debt service structure means that if anything were to happen between 2026 and 2039, and the library needs to bond to fund an emergency project, it will substantially raise taxes, not just half a penny. We're gonna have to fit interest, like at the very least, we'll have to fit a number of years of interest-only payments, which makes for a very non-efficient financing. Just to keep that tax rate impact as minimal as possible until 2040, when we can start structuring principal payments. So there's the proactive approach, which we'll call Plan A. And then there's this hyper-conservative reactionary approach that we can call Plan B.
John, isn't the additional challenge that the resolution in front of the council doesn't spell out the infrastructure, so we have to amend the resolution?
You could amend the resolution, or you could trust us, but we'll amend the resolution.
That's the negotiator.
Give me an example of a library emergency that would require bonding.
Roofing mainly.
We don't have insurance that would cover that
Roofing and mechanicals.
I'm thinking if we did get the step down in 5 years, our Harris branch will be 25 years old, which means all of the mechanicals are 25 years old. Then we might need a pot we've already had water failure that cost us a small arm and leg to fix, where things in the building are starting to fail. That isn't in this bond because we looked at trying to prioritize a little bit and not have as high a tax, increase if we were to get one. We picked our projects by, talking to our architects and looking at stuff, and that we feel like we probably will have about 5 more years and just take care of the roofs right now. It's the big thing.
So you're saying like a water pipe breaks and you've got major damage in libraries that.
I'm thinking the HVAC system and stuff.
Okay, so
like
we have
major equipment.
a major failure in the HVAC.
Because
You wouldn't be insured to replace that. You have to. bond that.
we are insured. That's what happened with the water thing, but I will say we had the water, and then I don't know if y'all realized that they were insured. Yes, but in saying, we thought they were going to drop us. We had 2 insurance people on as board members, and they said, we're shocked they didn't drop you, and it didn't increase, but the trusses, we found out that when the building was built, the trusses started, they went up there and they were like, how many inches away from they had folded, so we had to redo the entire building, the interior roof. And so that was put in the same year that we had water damage that just came down. We had to replace walls and flooring, and so 2 claims in a year. And so we're a little hesitant when we say, put insurance, but yes, we would definitely turn in the insurance if something like that happened. But we prefer to be proactive and keep it from happening, just not duct tape, we try to replace things in our buildings.
Well, like the nature related damages that might come up for a roof, let's say, an insurance related damage there, that may be covered, but workmanship on the roof itself may not be warranted until 2039, right? Workmanship for that may only be covered for 5 years or 8 years, or.
I'll just interject a couple of things. So we work for a lot of different clients. Mishawaka libraries are extremely judicial and prudent with how they spend their money. So the first criteria is how is it impacting our patrons? So if you look at all the improvements for any of the bonds, it's most of it, if not all of it, is either emergency projects that they put off, that we, or energy savings, which helps with operating costs ultimately. And then also, areas that they need to respond to their patronage. So we just redid Harris Library, the interior, okay? That needed to be done because the patrons in that community, in that portion of the county, nothing had been done in 25 years. So it wasn't over the top, but it was very tangible improvements that dealt with security, dealt with programs that they couldn't offer that now they can offer. So they've been very judicial in terms of how they spend their money. They're not just saying, let's just add on because we have some money and let's spend $4 million. These are, especially on this bond, two of the projects, the roof projects, which are more than half or almost half of the amount that they're asking for, is work that they had already put off because it was part of the COVID. And instead of just saying we're going to spend it even though we have that money, they say it doesn't make any sense. And we consulted with them and said and recommended, don't spend this. The numbers are too high. If you can patch and duct tape it together and go to the next one, it probably makes more sense because let's use your money wisely.
We do have
So-
163,000 left out of that bond that we would apply to the lighting or to the roof. I know that's not a lot.
So they were able to take that money that was initially, use it at the worst case scenario and the types of roofing, if anyone has gone through any of the construction, shingle roofing was less impacted than an EPDM flat roof. So they did the shingle roofing, which is the largest area, had the most potential for leaks. And so they were able to readjust that and do a little more of the lighting and the LED upgrades with that money instead of just, well, now what are we gonna do? And so I will just, that's my 2 cents to interject is that I know it impacts everything. I think what they're asking for is not extreme. I think it's most of this is for maintaining their operation and offering. These aren't excessive requests. These are things that they need to do. And if they don't replace the roof, then you're going to start impacting the interiors, some of the work that they've already done. So.
Said, almost worth $300,000 with no homeowner's exemption, it'd be $13 a year. You said that.
$13.50. Based on how much?
That's 2 lots.
Based on how much, Joe?
Yeah.
300,000.
No exemption, $300,000 no homestead exemption.
And do you not live in your house?
Just thinking of people who have investment property too.
Lots of.
Any further questions or comments for the library?
Without any thoughts on.
Well, I said, but I think it's a very immaterial increase. I understand Mark's point that any increase is an increase, but it's very immaterial, less than half a penny on the tax rate.
But there's lots of reasons for that. And so, but the other thing I'll say is one thing that brings and keeps people in the community is quality of life. Public libraries and public schools, parks, all of those are things that contribute to the quality of life. So. I think it's pretty judicious as to me.
You can use some of the resources that they provide, digital, otherwise.
Those are beautiful, aren't they?
Here, Jamie might want to make a couple comments on what our actual procedure is going to be in next week or next 2 weeks.
So, you're not voting tonight, but we need to make sure we know what's likely to be considered at the public hearing so that the newspaper notice, if necessary to be changed, can be changed or updated. It sounds like if we're not asking for more money, we don't need to do that, but we need to have the correct resolution. So,
Yeah, the resolution is being requested to be voted on.
Right.
The additional appropriation is merely being requested to have a public hearing. No vote.
And yeah, Jen sent out advertising today for the appropriation.
Right.
It sounds like we're not asking for different money, we're just paying it back over.
That's right.
So that, I don't think that needs to be advertised, but whatever resolution, sounds like maybe there's, if there is an appetite, it sounds like the second one is, I guess we could have both resolutions.
Wait, say that last part again?
We could have both resolutions. There has to be no.
Both options you're saying?
Both options.
Both options, right.
Both resolution.
Right, both, yeah.
Obviously. with
Plan
the-
A, Plan B.
That's obvious. That's okay, I'm trying to make sure everybody's understanding what you're trying to say.
But what, we've got to have a public hearing on it, so it's got to be on the agenda, so we got to have. For that, I think at least 48 hours. Sure that the notice, the public hearing is correct.
And
So,
both resolutions are on the agenda,
And
and
one
at
could
least
be-
one of them gets approved, then it doesn't delay the issuance of bonds. which
Right.
Then delay the activity that's being.
and if they both get rejected, that we're no worse off.
That September.
Right.
It's advertised for September.
So I guess. Provide a resolution. to plan.
Yes, of course. And was there a date by which you needed those?
Next Wednesday?
Post this up.
Next Wednesday by noon. Next Wednesday by noon.
Next Wednesday by Wednesday, absolute deadline.
We'll shoot for the end. Thank you.
Anything else on the library? Thanks for coming in tonight and sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time and consideration.
Next up, we will move to a monthly discussion on the county budget. We're going to hear from a couple of departments tonight where we are responsible to approve the budget. They're not necessarily county budget, but they're, and their own budgets. Issue came up last night in regard to solid waste a little bit. And I think they're one of the ones up tonight, so let's go ahead and get started. We will start with the airport authority.
Thank you very much. We'll make this brief. You guys have had a long evening already tonight. This is Renata Matusheva. She is our Vice President of Finance and Admin. And so this is our proposed 2025 expense budget that's in front of you. Before I get into that for just a second, I know several of you attended the recent announcement of our new airline coming to South Bend. It's our 5th airline in South Bend. There's only one other airport in the state that has more than us, and that's Indianapolis. So we're working to beat them. Grow the population, as they say, but so that's exciting. 2 new routes with this airline. We're in discussions with them for a third. We actually have an agreement with them for a third route. We're waiting for a couple signatures to arrive, and then there'll be an announcement, we hope very, very soon. Announcing the full destination this airline will bring to town. So great news, always working hard for the citizens in our community. The 2025 expense budget that's before you right now, if you look on the column with the gray, that's the 2025, 2024 is right next to that. So for 2025, our grand total is about 71.75 million. That's a 1.82% increase over last year. Fairly small. The largest item in our budgets is the non-operating expenses. You can show that for 2025, that's $50.6 million is our non-operating budget. That's you can see all those capital improvements that go into that to do that. That's down just a little bit from last year, but it's still significant as we move forward. And a lot of those dollars, they're in the expense budget, but there's revenue items that come from the feds and the state budget that help fund many of those things. So I'll just stop there and try to answer any questions you have. I know it's been like I said, a long evening already.
Mike, what is representative of major equipment, since that's one of those pretty significant non-operating expenses?
But major equipment could include everything from snow removal equipment to a new fire truck to also baggage belt systems, HVAC systems in one of our numerous facilities that we own and stuff. So there's a combination of many things that come into that one.
Some of it replacing deteriorating, aging, some of it due to support the expansion of the additional airline?
So most of the costs for the expansion of the airline is in 2024's expense budget. There's a few items we think that won't be completed and they'll end up in the 2025, but the vast majority of it is already in 2024's and being taken care of.
Congratulations.
I was gonna say that.
We're excited. Yeah.
Very nice event too.
Thank you, sir.
Very
Thank you. Yeah. The great part of the next announcement is it's not going to Florida. So that's a new destination that we don't serve today. So that's exciting. And we were waiting for a final DOT signature. We're still waiting. So.
Anything else for the airport? Everybody good?
Thank you so very much for your time.
Thanks, Mike. Next up is solid waste.
So I have a hand up for everyone. My name is Ben Carson. I'm here representing Solid Waste Management District, John Schwellness is our director. He is out ill today, so he is sent me in instead, and I just learned this this morning. So I apologize if I come off as ill-prepared or don't have the answers to everyone's questions. So I may lean heavily. Luckily, quite a few people in this room have got some experience with us. So in front of you is our proposed 2025 budget. If you take a look at it, it has not changed a lot. The top order is staffing, salary, payroll, and it sticks to a standard 4% increase. With one exception, we've re-added an old position with a new title change to help with our growth. We're seeing growth every year. And with that, we want to restructure, bring back and retitle a position that used to be around. And then bring it back and help where we need it. And then below that, the FICA and PERC to account for the added salary. We'll have to increase those as well. Below that, the increases that you'll see, general supplies, services, and education. We're getting out and about. We haven't done that in 5 years, 4 years and a little bit last year we started back. We're getting out more often than we have. And so we want to increase that education budget. Let the county residents know what services they have if they don't already know it. So that's what that education goes to. A few reductions, postage and information technology. We saw that we didn't need as much as we have been. We are boosting advertising, again, try and get out the word to the county, the residents. And then the biggest, largest increase, our curbside pickup, we've added homes. We went through an audit and found that we had underestimated or we had not accounted for the growth in the county. And so we've added some more houses. The general fuel is more expensive than it has been. So annually, we tend to see a rise in fuel costs and our general going up as well. And that accounts for an 8.6% increase, which falls well within our budget. We should not need to raise any sort of fees or anything. And as you know, ours doesn't really affect the county's budget per se. So,
Promise not to raise fees.
I'll promise.
How would you raise fees? Do you know how that works?
I don't. I was not here the last time it happened, and what I understand, although Fig may, sorry, Mr. Fig. But the way I understand it, they had the foresight in the past to look a decade down the road and anticipate not having to raise for quite a while. So
This is solid management board that raised fees or lowered the fees. 1 year they actually lowered it. I think Raphael was on the board at that time, lowered it by $1. That's where we are right today. Has not been raised at all since I've been there, since I retired. I don't think in your term on the board, it actually went down.
Right. You know, there was some discussion with, I guess, accountability, with all the addresses.
Yes.
Okay, where is that? Where does that stand now? Because there seems to be some pretty serious discussion on the accuracy.
So the way I understand it, it was brought up by our service provider, Borden, who
Correct.
holds the current contract.
Correct.
They believe that we underestimated our number. I think at the time we were sitting right around 72,000 homes. They had one of their, maybe several of their employees working on it. John and our office assistant sat and went through along with, who gives us those numbers? Lord. List, the assessment, I do. The list of homes within, and we went through it. We went through it, they went through it, and did come up with some where multifamily homes may or may not have been counted as multifamily. We found some homes that had been demolished, some homes that had been built. And after all that, came up with an additional roughly 3,000 homes that we agreed on. So we went from 72,000 to roughly 75,000.
And just to let you know, that you probably still do get the report from the building department for new homes, so
Yeah.
Brandy puts it in the system.
So once a week, we get a report from the new housing resident, the occupational, occupied. Occupancy, there you go, there's the word, I forgot the occupancy reports, and go through and add those in as we come across them. We just recently found out there are townhomes being built on the corner of Lincolnham and up near Notre Dame. I'll just go with that. And had a resident call us and tell us that he has moved in and he needs recycling, and that's how we found out that those were there. We called board and they said, yes, we'll service them, and we are adding them to our account this week, I believe.
So, Mr. Fig is on the board and I'm not anymore. So when I was on the board, that still was a bone of contention, if you will. So you're saying that's been
As of right now, the agreement
not
between
solved, it's
ourselves and the service provider board, and we've come
on
to
the same page.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
How often that comes up as an issue
Correct.
really depends on how diligently we watch these numbers.
Gotcha. Okay.
Solid waste is not just collection, right?
Right.
Or
We offer
hazardous chemicals and.
primarily 3 services: curbside collection, your black and gray bins that you have outside your homes, HHWs, household hazardous waste or hazardous household waste, which are in South Bend and Mishawaka. And then the education aspect of it, where we go out into the public and talk about sustainability and the services we provide. The needs of the public.
Question that may have some historical context that I'm just fuzzy on. I might have been on the Mishawaka City Council at the time, or it may have predated that slightly. There was a great debate over the funding of 2 pickups, one in South Bend and Mishawaka. And I believe county residents only fund the one location in South Bend.
Are you talking about the household there?
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you answer that.
Okay, so the way we are structured, from my understanding, is that the Solid Waste Management District owns and operates the facility here in South Bend completely. The physical location in Mishawaka is owned by the city of Mishawaka. Right. It is staffed by, I believe, city employees who are under the street department.
Central services, but it falls in the same category.
And we provide the contracts for the disposal, or the hauling away, all of that, whether it gets recycled or disposed of, and the supplies, or the majority of the supplies that they use in that location.
But you don't set the policies that they necessarily operate in out beyond that, right? Because
That's correct.
yard debris and things of that nature, they have separate
That is,
policies,
that's not word.
only accepting that from actual residents in the city of Mishawaka.
Correct.
Okay, so I wasn't saying it to set you up for anything, I was just making clarity. Yep.
And just to let you know, it says in Mishawaka, they only pay for the household hazardous waste, so I think it's $9 a month, a year, I'm sorry, $9. About $12 for a TP.
And I know that really advocating for non-municipal residents, it causes some confusion when somebody has a Mishawaka address, but doesn't actually live in the city proper. And they get turned away from that facility. I'm not saying that it's the fault of the solid waste district. I'm not saying it's the fault of anybody who made those decisions. I just wanted to share that it still causes.
And turned away, right?
Yeah,
Okay, yes, right.
yeah,
You gotta be a
for
resident.
yard waste and things of that.
So you pay for that. Right, you have to be a resident of Mishawaka. You live in the city, right?
I do live in the
So he
city, but
pays
I
for it.
know others who, again, they may use that facility for other purposes that are completely warranted and part of this
And that's,
partnership, but then they're turned away for that specific aspect of that facility.
And the way I understand that, that's the city of Mishawaka utilizing a piece of land as diligently as they can by putting two services in one place, but not servicing the same clientele from both.
It's clear the solid waste facility in South Bend does not accept yard waste and brush. So it is a unique service provided there for the residents.
Tell you, every day we get a phone call asking something similar. So we promote organic resources here on the west side of South Bend. And we try and clarify the exact same question with the city of Mishawaka. And we promote 311 quite a lot.
and to let you know, we wanted to close the household hazardous waste in Mishawaka, but a certain mayor threw a fit.
Oh, I recall people walked out of me stuff from my recollection of the news at the time. It was just, I don't remember what that year was historically. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't trying to advocate or set anybody up by just expressing what I observed. Thank you. Waste. Yep.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Next up is the hotel motel tax board.
Thank you. Ron Zeltlinger with First Source and treasurer of the Hotel Tax Board. I've got Becky Fletcher, also a board member, Jeff Chernecki, probably all know with Visit South Bend, Mishawaka. I want to first thank John Murphy. He's been a great partner. Keeps us on the straight and narrow and helps us along the way. Just as a refresher, the Hotel Motel Tax Board collects the 8% hotel tax. When people visit hotels in St. Joe County. In 2019, that changed from 6% to 8%. So today it's 8%. The Hotel Motel Tax Board gets 5/8 of that, or 5%. The Mishawaka Sports Complex and the Tourism Capital Development Fund get 1% each of the 8. And then Potawatomi Zoo and Morris Performing Arts gets 0.5%. So that breaks down, we collect total about 10 million a year comes in. So the hotel gets 6 million-ish. Sports complex and the tourism capital fund gets about 1.2 million. The zoo and the Morris get 600,000 each. So our job is just to allocate that money back out. The Hotel Motel Tax Board, which I think is in your packet. Our budget for 2025, proposed budget, 6.1 million. Last year it was 6.5 million, so we've actually reduced that a little bit. We carry a roughly a $6 million reserve through COVID, and that got down to about 3.5 million. We built that back up. So we basically have a year's reserve, year's budget on reserve. So that money again gets allocated primarily to the Century Center, debt service, lease, operating expenses, and their building structures, CapEx projects. And then the Business South Bend, Mishawaka, the Convention Bureau, Visitors Bureau gets operating funds, gets marketing grants, special projects, and tourism grants. That's really the money flows in, it goes back out. And so we basically budget the entire amount. And then we also allocate on request as budgeted for the various other entities. Morris again gets 600,000 a year. The zoo also 600,000. And then the sports complex, 1.2 million, and tourism capital, 1.2 million. So questions, Jeff, anything in perspective?
I've been asked more than several times, about consideration for dams in the area. Start up the thought on there, what's it meant? For allocation.
Yeah, so the dinosaur museum, for instance.
Museum, dinosaur museum, museum.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it comes to me,
Yeah.
and, you know, I think it would be remiss if I didn't bring it up.
Right. So the Dinosaur Museum was a recipient it's just in the last year from the Tourism Capital Improvement Fund, so investment fund. So they received funding, made a request. So we've got a subcommittee of the Hotel Tax Board that considers these fundings for various projects, Urban Trail to Notre Dame, one of those, Dinosaur Museum. Icebox has been considered, so people like that, things that can drive tourism and heads and beds. With
The whole, you know, the whole goal is heads and beds, and I get to it. But it just seems like, we are very blessed to have exceptional facilities, and those facilities are just getting better and growing. So I was just, wondering how the process to reconsider the allocation or reallocate.
So we have an annual solicitation for request of funding from the Capital Improvement Fund. And also our special projects, we also can consider that as well. So there is a RFP process out of Jeff's group. I think it's out generally in springtime.
Yes, and I would share too,
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff Jarnicki visits up in Mishawaka. We also support the museums through an annual grant process, and then for their events as well. So this year, we worked with Brian Harding History Museum, paid for the $30,000 towards the move of the cabin, which was a one-time special request. We support the Studebaker Museum. So bring in 300 tour operators at the museum, local this year that brought in incremental business to them, and then sponsor the Concours de la Gallants. Sort of basis, and then further support them from the markets. So they're the biggest.
That information, please.
Yeah.
So I'm being serious, because that way, when I'm asked, I can have a positive report.
And we do see them as quality place and quality.
Okay,
Too.
I appreciate that. All right, thank you very much.
Anything else from the council?
Thank you very much.
Next up is the Liberty Township 2025 budget.
Sue, take it away.
Okay.
I'm Sue Ditmar, Liberty Township trustee, and I'm here this evening because my township board is made up of 3 wonderful firemen, but because they are firemen, they cannot vote on board, so it's very convenient to you. With Steve's help, so our growth portion is 4%, and yes, but we worked through where the money was spent last year and where it may be where we've been.
Can you talk about ambulance and the changes you're making?
Oh, big changes in our ambulance department. Been a big year for us. We put on a very sizable addition to our building. It has a storage room, 6 bedrooms that we converted one to a living space and kitchen. 2 bathrooms. Right now, we are only doing 12-hour shifts, 7 to 7, but our plans are within the next month. of the people that are there are not familiar with our area, and although a GPS is very effective, our ambulance director thought it might be a better idea to put these people on 12-hour shifts where they have, more of them have an opportunity to actually see where they're going and go those places. So we have done that. We started our first shift on August 11th. Again, they're working 12-hour shifts right now. We've hired new people. All but 2 of our volunteers have also signed up to become full-time. So,
You don't know the presentations or something. Lisa financial.
Financial advisor.
That young guy that just left. I was gonna go over, Mark, the things that are gonna happen on September 10th, but I didn't want to make Sue feel like she was done if you had questions for her.
Oh, do we have a question from Liberty Township?
You're switching to chips. They're payroll that's associated.
There is, and it's, so the ambulance, payroll, and this year, we weren't sure when we were going to get this done. We've been working on this building project, finally got it done. So the budget amount for, 24 was $598,000. We won't come close to that this year. But our proposed budget for 25 is $621,000. And right now we have no benefits, it's strictly our hourly wage.
Any other questions?
Start with Liberty, and then we'll go to everybody else in reverse order, I guess. For Liberty, they already did their public hearing. So the only thing we're doing in the September 10th meeting is that you agree to adopting their budget, because they can't adopt their own budget, because of the volunteer firefighters who also get paid benefits. There's only one action, and that's adopting the budget. It's not another meeting that's required. It just kind of closes out that, because it's different than all the other. The library, as Jamie said, they're gonna give you 2 different resolutions, it sounds like. The vote that they're asking you to approve is one of those 2 resolutions, or deny them, I guess. But they also want you to hold a public hearing on their additional appropriation. You don't need to vote on it. Just the fact that a public hearing happened is all they need you to take. They can do the rest of themselves. It's kind of weird. We've never done that. Like, we do public hearing, but we don't vote. Just letting the public speak. Many of the other,
Their board.
the board approves it. The airport is public hearing only. We'll wait till October to adopt. Solid waste is public hearing only. We'll wait till October to adopt. Hotel motel, you're not gonna do a single thing because it's embedded in your St. Joseph County budget book. So it's part of what you're gonna do, which is public hearing only for the St. Joseph County budget. We'll wait until October to adopt. Liberty then will be the vote only. See how that's gonna go probably.
You got it? Yeah. Right. Last thing is, unless somebody found 1.6 million overnight. Steve, John?
We did not.
We made improvements in the local income tax to public safety. We were able to pare back the budget by about 900,000.
We met with the sheriff today, yeah.
800,000. So the well path, we had asked, they actually had been working on a different version of the well path contract that we hadn't seen, so we were able to reduce some of those costs.
Robert, on the general fund?
We haven't done much on the general, but other than those, we're making those cuts that you have already authorized, like the prosecutor and the salary and some of those things like that.
And Abby did send out an email identifying what the underutilization of past budget was. So that just hit our inbox this afternoon to see where the underutilization.
You don't spend all your.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually 5%.
The question is, how do you want to reflect that? I mean, the budget is the budget. The fact that you might not spend 5 million of it, I'm not sure how to reflect in a way that would make you guys feel comfortable.
I think what the unfortunate reality is it means that X department versus Y department goes with X number of unfilled positions versus Y number of unfilled positions, and you arbitrarily cut those positions because they never seem to get filled anyway, is the most likely cause for those reversions.
Yeah, and then, yeah, you wish those departments every year that it's separate to do other things. But,
Not as much of that the
well,
last
we
few
had,
years.
we used to, that used to be
It used to be a big
a
thing.
big thing, and
It hasn't been as much.
it's been curtailed quite a bit. So, and that said, we need to find a date then. So probably let's start with the most obvious, and it's probably next Tuesday night, December 3rd.
I'm not gonna be able to be.
Can't be that date.
What?
I'm saying it can't be that date if Mr. Brook.
Oh, okay.
We're driving back from
I-
Mackinac.
Oh, get the Mackinac?
Yeah.
That's a long haul.
Every year. It's a tough year.
So we're looking at probably what then, Thursday, the 10th? Sixth? What is Thursday?
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
5 o'clock,
5 o'clock.
4, 7.
5 o'clock Thursday the fifth.
That work for everybody?
We'll try 5.
That sounds like that's it.
All right, week from this Thursday. 5 o'clock, right?
Thursday,
get
5
every-
o'clock.
We'll get everybody a new budget book and summaries by the end of the day on Thursday.
Okay.
So time to know the latest where we stand.
Just what's the idea?
Thank you.
Ideas to get this under control. Yes.
We start circulating some of those ideas, just so everybody can be percolating between now and then.
Bill, you want to hear yours?
Yeah, I would like to go to 18,000 health insurance. I don't know what you guys think. Or 18.5, John.
This was John's bright idea, but he's the one that's gonna have a heart attack.
I mean,
So I think 18.3. This year we're 18.3.
Right.
18 or even.
Right now we're at 8.5.
Fight that.
I don't think we should do that. We've done that before and it backfired, like, before I started, but we had a big balance in the health insurance fund. And we just went down and we went down and we went down. Pretty soon we were negative in the health insurance.
How long did it take us to build it up to what, 7 million now?
We've probably been at this for 10 years,
10 years?
Ever since 2017.
7 years. There you go.
So I would, because our costs were a little bit higher at the end of July than they were the prior year. That's part of that report always kind of compares cost versus cost. So could be a little bit of timing, who knows, but
I think everybody should be sharing.
I don't think we should. I'd love to do it, but I will do it if you want me to, but I don't recommend.
If you had to choose between $1 million deficit in the general fund or $1 million deficit in the healthcare fund, what would you rather do?
General, but that's much more.
Okay. And I understand your point, which is it'd be nice to get the general fund balanced.
Right.
And the healthcare fund has 9 million or 8 million. I do that a couple times and
Yeah, I know it's a slippery slope.
Let me throw out this idea. I will not say who it came from because I don't think they wanted it out there, but somebody approached me with an idea. Not sure I agree with this idea, but I'll put it on the table if we can think about it. We're doing that, and that's 4% across the board raises. Everybody.
police and prosecutor and everybody.
Everybody.
Well, that's, what would that be?
We don't know.
Oh, all right.
We can determine that pretty.
Just remember that with the jail, you already gave $5,000 raises,
That's already
so
baked in, so.
that's baked in.
Yeah, we'd have to factor that out, have to be over.
That throws off the table all this negotiating we've done with the sheriff.
That would be.
That throws that off.
That would be a total change. That would be a total change.
I won't support that. I'll tell you right now.
We don't want to do a calculation if there's not support.
That's just me. I won't support that. I won't even think about it.
I'm not sure I'm there either, Raphael. It was just suggested to me that we should look and see what the savings would be if we did that.
But we could see if we could put something together.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 50, 100 grand, it's not, it's not worth it, but not even worth considering. I mean, it may not be worth considering at all. Depending on what you
We'll look at it. I mean, it'd be really just a matter of last year's
amended, or the current year's amended salaries times 4%, compare that to where we are right now.
Yeah, you just do a quick analysis. It doesn't have to
Do that.
line by line.
Okay,
It's gonna be a bigger number because the prosecutor and the sheriff are a big number.
There will be some savings to question.
So
Steve and I were talking earlier.
I think it might be bigger.
He came up,
Holding.
he came up with a list of 12 things. I'll share it out with everybody. Look at. Discussed it. Okay, so I'll throw that around the 12.
Yeah, I recommended things you guys don't like for years. I've thrown out.
Yeah.
Close down departments. You guys most of the time don't like that. Say again? Close down departments.
Ethic relation.
Domestic relations was the one that everybody was talking about last year, but maybe it's not Victor's favorite to shut down.
Merging EMA into PSAP.
That's been talked about for 2 or 3 years. PSAP's got cash. Maybe they should pay the EMA guys. That's a $300,000 savings.
That's what you, that's what you put the subsidy to do come on there again.
I would love for the subsidy to go away, but somebody has to pay it.
What's been the hesitation?
Subsidy.
oh, yeah.
So.
To talk about, but
Saves us $330,000 and then we worry about the reorganization. In a couple of years, but left, and
Rox?
Are you saying just change the funding?
right, change the funding and then in a couple of years, we go ahead and.
If you're saying not change the organization, I'm not sure they might be a little bit, but they're still.
Well, they might be, but at least they'll not be.
I mean, is it close enough to?
$330,000, it's a chunk of it.
When we have a tornado, that's where they're all going. That's the building where everybody's gonna end up anyway.
It would be like a division in that budget.
So question.
I think that Dan was suggesting that perhaps this is a budgetary thing first and an org chart issue later. Because they both report to the commissioners.
Well, I mean, as long as PSAP wouldn't have that ability to just fire,
Right.
that's just talking.
Who would be
the
boss, what you're saying? Who's gonna be there?
Just the commissioners appoint the EMA guys.
Right.
Who knows would stay then.
I think by statute, they still have to.
Buddy and.
Does this have, need any
Right.
oversight
So
from
buddy and
the
ally.
staff executive?
Well,
They,
that would be up.
they kind of capped out.
Out for them, so.
Take it out of the general fund and put it in PSAP.
What's the next thing? 4% raises in the jail, they just got 5,000.
I just think he's coming back to us again in like April or May. I really do in the jail. It's never any problem.
They had 12 in their class right now. 12 correctional officers.
They are starting to go.
It's still down, even after the 12, 30 plus.
These are these same things that we're doing. Things that we've done and are going are helping our situation. Well, attracting more.
Well, it sounds like we have.
That's what I'm saying. Look, I go back.
Well, I'm not saying go backwards, I'm saying take away the 5,000, saying maybe put the 5,000's enough for.
What was the starting, what was their salary last year?
I think we got. It's 45 to
47.
$5,000.
47.
47 to 52.
So 4% on 47 is about 50. Sounds about 1,800.
Yeah.
5% on, add that to that, 2,500, 43. So if they just taken the 5 and the 4, they'd be about 4,300.
I would also say that if we're gonna withhold a 4% raise for the jail, we better damn well hold the 4% for the positions that made 100,000. that we
Yeah.
got approved last year. But I generally feel that the sheriff will be back to us in March, April, if we don't have some continuation in pay increase.
All right.
first of the year.
And that, to me, that's due to all the outside factors that they face. Trying to recruit and retain people. It's that simple.
One of those factors is gonna be mitigated a little bit as the schools fill those positions. Those guys aren't going anywhere and the schools aren't gonna need new people. So it's gonna be, I'm not saying it's a huge.
Jail.
There's some people in the jail costing us $10,000 a month in medical care.
You know, it's just, I don't know, I just feel like.
So there's that. Right?
I just don't think that. As
I think,
a big body,
I think Dan made a note, that one's not changing. Not to cut anybody off, but if that's not a favorable one, then it's.
14,722 severance pay, 36,329, page 5 for the treasurer.
Treasurer put in some severance pay, I guess thinking that either he was gonna fire or his replacement might fire people. We don't typically budget severance pay. It's either gonna get paid or it's not, but
Probably or retirements also.
I don't know that you need that line item.
no. I've never heard of this. Was any department have it? No.
It just happens.
It's not a bad idea if you have a, really flush system to have a severance. It's a good idea. It's a best practice.
36,000.
Can we really afford to do that?
Take it out.
6,000.
Take it
Take it
out.
out.
All right.
Take it out.
That's it.
Here's what typically happens,
That's
an
easy.
employee leaves, they're due 2 months of pay because of the PTO they've built up. The manager waits 2 months to hire their replacement. That's typically what happens.
kind of use empty positions.
I think you got care of that with.
Rather additional budget.
Number 2, tax and AR manager in the sheriff's office back to 4%.
Yeah, there was one weird increase that was 9% instead of 4%. If you're gonna go all across the board for, then you need to pick up all the little. Not me. I'm just pointing out.
It was 1.9 million.
He's gonna do this 1,900 times.
We're building the base.
And we are building the bank.
Figure that in right
And
now.
we're doing it in the good year. So keep in mind that we're projecting our the next 2 years to be.
Okay, next one, eliminate new positions in the jail. They have been using correction.
Okay, so they wanted 2 new positions. John and I asked them about, you asked us to. Basically, some correctional officers were doing these jobs and they would like to call them out as specific positions now. So the question is, would you rather they just remain correctional officers covering these jobs, or do you want to create 2 new positions?
They said they reduced their number of corrections.
Right.
It's the same time.
So.
It was kind of like neutral.
My gut, although nobody said this, my gut, it was also a little bit of a bump for those 2 people, because they were probably correctional officers here and now they're a new job title here. Not, I don't know how much, $1,000, whatever.
Maybe I'm jumping ahead of some other idea here, but we asked the sheriff to cut a few patrol positions because he's not able to fill them anyway. Do we look at that same aspect in the correctional officer positions, that we may ask him to live with the reality that he may not be able to fill that many positions?
So here's my worry. Yes, normally I would answer. I believe that our creative chief deputy auditor did that already, and I think she has purposely under budgeted the quantity of positions at each of the level of the correction already.
Gotcha.
But that also increased the overtime. The overtime we did reduce by 800,000.
I think if we do that too many times, we're cutting the same thing.
It is a strategy. It's, that we used to do that in South Bend. You don't budget for expected vacant positions, but you go down that road, that takes a long time.
How you end up with $5 million unspent in the budget here.
So move on.
Yeah.
Reduce IT new employees to only 1 force.
We gave him 1 last year.
Somebody's been arguing for that for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Oh, I think you guys were arguing for two even. Round to one.
That was the one the court
That guy
wanted.
did too.
They demanded at least.
On the fourth one. He started at 6, but go all the way to 1.
Yeah. Think you're overburdened.
We're looking at here about 100,000.
Per person.
Per person?
Those were pretty high paid.
Yeah, they're big.
Like 70 plus.
Plus that was benefit.
We had reduced it to 3.
Read that one last night, Dan. That one ain't going anywhere.
It didn't go anywhere.
Wrap it up that now, so don't let them know.
He said that.
No expense.
Okay, well, we'll save that for.
Tell you that we're talking about, we'll give you the additions.
Eliminate personnel coordinator and human capital.
You're kidding. Okay, so the youth
They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it either.
The youth capital department moved 2 people into the health insurance fund. Actually hired one and moved one. That freed up a spot in the general fund. She's asking to refill that spot with a, what do you call it, personnel coordinator? But that is kind of a new position, so just 2 left and 1 came back.
So. I understand that if you're leading a department, you're delegating left to, but at what point in time do you have? So.
I had to figure out how to do that.
And at what point in time does the person running the HR department no longer become responsible? It's now. And to a degree, I think that may be a pretty big ask. To add that one person. Easier one.
There might be some agreement there.
So
Cut.
how much would that save us?
Probably 75 grand.
Okay. Yeah.
Personnel coordinator and fund.
Sync up the court administrator pay, the same pay for circuit superior.
We did that. We're in progress.
You guys already doing it.
Already done.
Tikowitz wanted a lot more for his person, and so I think that there was some hope.
It was like.
Superior and Circuit said to us, please sync them up. This is driving us
How
crazy.
much is that gonna save us? From?
It was all already baked in, right?
Already baked in.
Already baked in probably, right? No, we're in the process of updating
It's
that.
like $5,000.
Yeah, it's like 5,000.
We're making progress.
We can come up with 400 more.
The museum, 500K in the
Oh,
title.
Diana.
Yeah, I know, to separate the women.
They won't do that.
Diana has told me that for a long time.
Because museums are independent of the county.
know,
I like them too, but
it's the fact that we in the building. We found that that's beneficial for them, and they did spend a lot of museum money on maintaining the building until they discovered that. That they shouldn't have been doing.
they say, okay,
We did a bunch of.
so if we give them the building, they can maintain.
Build the building. The agreement is a really interesting agreement. We can never get out of it, but they can petition to be removed from it if they would like to. We would need to create some type of incentive, which Diane does totally disagree with me on, where they would want to petition to leave.
Number 10, eliminate relations and $100,000 to circuit court judge for mediation services.
That's an employee.
How many people?
Like
4,
5 or
maybe
6.
5, 4 or 5.
Those would be contractual services to attorneys for mediation.
I think that this department, the circuit court manages this department, and they use it for domestic disputes.
To avoid a trial process, I believe.
Yeah, kind of like a pre-probationary thing. Let's not do that again. That one hit a wall last night when I mentioned it, so I'm not acting like it's.
Last night, there wasn't much.
For 11, offer to retire Bill Shalio, rehire him as a consultant to the Developmental Commission. In the same capacity, I would say $119,000 plus benefits.
Redevelopment can pay consultants, they can't pay employees.
Yeah, they would have to pay him a lot more because he would.
It's up to them, that's their money.
Yeah.
He'll probably, he has young children, probably gonna be, wanna be on health county.
Oh, yeah.
conversation. I think we were concerned about his pay. Maybe we let the redevelopment commission set his pay.
Yeah, that kind of, I mean, I know they're gonna have money, but they get that kind of money.
I can work with them, that's.
A guy does like an Amazon and a Microsoft and a GM in 1 year, and you're gonna get. Like,
Well, I think he might like this idea. You guys might be taking my,
like it, you offer it.
he might like this
He
idea,
likes the idea.
because he's fully
Okay.
perked.
Yeah,
okay, well,
And he paid off his student loans a couple years ago because he was using that government employee payoff program.
Then also probably by tenure qualify for retiree insurance coverage.
Retiree health insurance. It's about $50 a month.
I think, don't you have to have an A, don't you have to be an
I think he's got that.
Well, it's something to throw out.
I thought you had to be 65.
Oh, it's good until you.
Yeah, it's capped to get you to 65.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. What's the formula for that?
You just pay a premium, because you retire, you put in enough years with the county, and then you pay a premium, it's a very small premium.
Is he there though?
I don't know, so many continuous years and an age to qualify.
He probably is there, but the city itself. They.
Well, again,
I'm sorry, that's different. That's.
It's worth a discussion. We have tried to push our expenses of ED back on the redevelopment commission. It's been difficult to do. This might be an opportunity to.
Have they done advice before?
They're also, Carl mentioned that he's also being recruited. And this may be a way to retain his historical knowledge and mental work product up to this point. While allowing him to maybe dabble in other pastures.
So allow him to make a lot more money through redevelopment. And then, as long as we can solve the health insurance.
It's worth the conversation, rather than us just.
Wait till you know how they're doing it.
Who has that conversation?
I think.
Is that your conversation to have with him, or is that commissioner?
That'll be the commissioner.
Well, was Joe's idea, use the per FTE allocation for health insurance. But
And we already talked about that.
Say it again. That was a thumbs down. I got stepped out. John Murphy.
reduce the per FTE allocation.
Oh,
We already went from 9.5 to.
no, I
I'll throw out number 13, which I mentioned to you, the idea of maybe we started too high at 4%, maybe we drop everything to 3.5.
I thought about that.
I thought about that, drop that.
Or 3.
But once, yeah, how much is that percent?
A 1% cut would be right around 600,000, so you add in the.
50, 575.
So we're at about 46 million in salaries, so take 1%, 460, add about a quarter of that for benefits and perk, and you're at about 600,000.
Okay, so right now,
For 1%, that's for 1%.
so going down to
But you're not taking it on everybody, is that what we're saying?
That's true, you're not gonna take it on the jail guards, you're not gonna take it on the
Well,
police, no salary.
I'm suggesting you take it off
Total,
everybody.
Probably
1%
close to
on
500,000.
But aren't you gonna have some pissed off people that,
Probably, cause
Yeah.
that's a lot high.
you know?
You know what, you explained
Yeah,
it,
we said it
when
all,
the
we said it
schools are
so.
going back to 3% for next year, we're going into possibly a recession. I think you can explain it, and they're gonna be a little upset, but hey, listen, but listen to this. They got 6 this year, total of 9, so a lot more they've got in any 2-year period than.
That's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying that in test of this, there was a year and, well, there were many years where I was involved in sending out the budget letter. Now, even though that budget letter every year was meant to be a starting point or a guide, okay? There's 1 year, couple years in particular, but one,
Not taken that way.
yeah.
oh boy, when you put out something like that, like we've already put out 4%, and you go back, when all these people have come in and said, okay, hey, we've followed your guidelines, 4% it is, blah, 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 even though we think some of them need more. My point is, when you go back, I almost moved to Alaska.
That's your first thought.
Yeah. I mean, people were so pissed. I'm speaking from experience. Okay, we had all the people come in and say, okay, you know, I agree, okay, good. The other part of it was. I didn't.
Let me say what I said last night, between what we already baked in with the jail, committing 4% and doing the police. Mathematically, we are over a balanced budget. That's the problem.
We're over what?
With those three actions, we are over a balanced budget. We are in deficit.
We passed a deficit budget before.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we passed the deficit, correct me if I'm wrong. We passed the deficit budget before and we haven't, and we weren't in as good as financial shape as we are now. Am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Goddamn right.
You have to say it louder when he starts talking like that. You have to say it louder.
Yeah.
Got a lot of new.
Man, I tell you how I feel. And I know that. Tell you how I feel based upon I've been here since Abe Lincoln was the president. And I've seen things that none of you guys have seen. So therefore, it's not a matter of who's right or wrong. It's a matter of perspective. All I'm saying.
Well, it'd be better to wait on the cuts till next year, instead of giving next year like 3%. and just go.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do what, John?
It'd be better to make that cut next year.
Yeah.
You wanna get 3%,
But
just
you
give
may be forced to make that cut next year if things are as bad as.
we're not gonna be forced because we have a large fund balance, but we're gonna have to take some action.
You can't build a sustainable budget on reserve funding forever.
No, that's why you do 2% or 1%. Instead of, we overshot it.
Or we do a flat dollar. Right. Don't worry about these high dollar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If you go in,
You're right, Brian, and it's about time.
It's time to do.
if you go on it,
Just a dollar.
perspective.
Yeah.
From day one, and that's what you send out in a guidance letter, then you won't put yourself in a position for all pushback and people being so mad they can freaking kill you. Okay.
And actually, Brian, a combination of those actually in one sense works best, and you're right. I think it's been a couple of years since we've done that, so.
We haven't raised the base either.
Uh,
We did that 4 years ago.
You know, the base is raised simply by, we set a base 3 or 4 years ago, and they've had what, 5% for, so the base has moved. I'll be honest with you, and we heard from departments, I'm not sure the floor, the base is our problem.
It's the middle.
It's the middle. You're wrong, that's my concern, you've heard me say that.
Right.
Yeah,
because
because both the other, yeah.
The top end and the low end are both in pretty good shape countywide, we got problems in the middle.
And thanks to Mr. Root years ago on that, taking care of the low end. And I'm not trying to be funny.
Well, I appreciate that.
Pardon? That's what I said, I wasn't trying. Try usually. Good job. Did we ever talk about the prosecutor? Are we done on him or what?
We're putting in 6,000, 6,000.
70,000 by base, 6,000 over the top.
We set a floor. We did 6,000 on top of that for everybody else.
How many part-time and full-time prosecutors I should call them? Yeah. Cause you know,
39, was it?
30, was that part-time?
Yeah.
5 vacancies. Because, it's a big deal to work part-time. Being from Elkhart, they had a ton of part-time deputies and they had to practice on the side. I don't know, looking long-term, that may not be a bad idea. Getting more part-time deputies so they can do both. The Elkhart County prosecutor years ago used to be part-time prosecutor. Remember that? Yeah, I remember. And then,
22 full-time, 1 part-time.
Only one.
That's something to think about down the road because they had a lot of part-time deputies and they had both, they did both, seemed to work good. Howard would. I know. Howard would. He'd blow a gap. He would, I know. I'm just thinking long-term. I hear you.
How many murder?
Elkhart doesn't have murder.
All right, we're.
Not as many.
Let me give you a number where we are now after those 4 reductions. We started down 1.6 if we align the severance pay treasurer. If we merge EMA into PSAP, if we eliminate the personnel coordinator capital and sync up the court admin pay for the court court superior or circuit superior and probate, we saved $446,329. So approximately, we've only got a deficit of $1 million. One
75% of that's in the EMA one, which
Right.
we can't do without further conversations. Commissioner Dwight, so. I think the other three we can probably decide. There's not a whole lot to say. The EMA one's gonna be a conversation we have to have with commissioners. Didn't see that. All right, anything else before we adjourn?
So what do we set, September?
Next Thursday. we'll have a-
5:00. Same bad time, same bad time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We changed it recently.
Dan, thanks for putting that together, man.
Never call on them for money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. And albeit it affected the libraries. I was here about this.
Yeah.
And the personnel costs $3.46 million.